Shalom, Yasharala. This is your brother Dawada, coming back at you with sincere truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone that taught us this truth and that root well. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I'm going to jump into this here article real quick as we start to see, more and more prophecy unfold. All right, we're getting to a point in time where, like the scriptures say, at the end it shall speak and not lie. A few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you wouldn't have thought that you would have seen things like, the beast starting to hate the whore. All right. And it's crazy that in these times that we're living in, that, especially in these very latter days, that with this whole Ukrainian situation, that, a lot of these other Edomite nations, which pertain to the beast. All right. They're starting to realize the things that's going on that America's doing unto them, man. All right. And they're starting to wake up to this here BS, man. And they're starting to turn up against them. But here with the whore, America. All right. These Americans, they still don't realize, man. They're caught up on the Trump and Biden train, man. And they're back and forth on that, if you like Trump, you hate Biden. If you like Biden, you hate Trump. And that's about it. They don't know and understand the reasons why. The majority of these people who voted for Biden, they still on the Biden side, and they like, oh yeah, he's better than Trump. But I'm like, well, let's just take a look at how you were living under Trump versus how you were living under Biden. All right. At least, under your boy Trump. And again, I'm not for these stimulus checks, but at least under Trump, he was giving you a stimulus check, whereas Biden's giving stimulus checks to these other nations, which is causing a downfall of where you live at, your gas prices and the food shortages and all these different things. All this is coming directly from what your boy Biden is doing. All right. With this whole Ukrainian situation. And the whole Ukrainian situation is being stirred up based off of what, this American administration is really, like I put it, the American administration from on high on down. All right. This is above the Trump and the Biden situation. But, most people are looking at it in that sense, in America. Oh, well, Biden this and Trump that and so on and so forth, and not realizing that, this is the agenda of the elite. This is what Esau overall is doing here, fulfilling prophecy. All right. Like the scriptures say, roughly paraphrasing, his own counsel shall cast him down. All right, he is caught up into a snare that he laid into his own, in his own path. It's going to bring him into the king of terrors. This is how Esau comes to his end. But, the point is the majority of you Americans don't realize, the steps that you're taking towards your own demise. All right, at least these other nations are starting to see these things and starting to buck up against these things, which is leading us into fulfill other prophecies as far as the beast starting to hate the whore. All right, because we know that the beast, like the scriptures say, I see a whore riding upon a scarlet colored beast, roughly paraphrasing, meaning, the whore is representative of America. All right. And the beast is what? Representative of NATO and the EU. All right. And this is how America is pushing forth militarily across the globe, man. All right. You got America that's at the head of this military bloc, basically. And NATO and the EU is making up, the rest of the military arm of it all. All right, America's the one that's controlling it. For example, you can look at the Middle East conflicts that we just had over the last 20 years, right? Now, America, it all basically, under the pretext, what they told the American population, oh, they did that because of the fact of 9/11. So for America's retaliation, America went over there and they brought out the rest of NATO with them. All right. Same thing that you have going on right now. America's back in the Ukraine. All right. Now they want, all of NATO to, America is the one that's backing Ukraine and pushing them into that. Now America wants all of NATO to suit up and go out there for their own agenda. All right. This is what these Americans are doing. But nevertheless, these other nations are starting to wake up to these things and they're starting to see. So this is their response. It says, stop NATO. Protesters chant at massive rally in the heart of the EU. All right. Tens of thousands demonstrated against the rising cost of living. All right. So, and you have the same scenario going on here in America. Like I said, most of you Americans don't realize that these things are coming from, basically, the American administration, basically, we'll put it that way, because it doesn't matter who's the president. They're going to go with the same agenda. All right. So, your rising and cost of living, your house, your rental prices, what you're paying for homes, are your grocery prices, gas prices. All right. And all these different things, the shortages that you're seeing on the shelves. All right. All these things are coming, as a cause and effect. The simple way of saying it is, the situation in Ukraine. All right, the pandemic. Well, who's causing and creating all these different things, man? All right, like with the pandemic situation, man. All right, well, who the one told you to shut down all the businesses and stop the supply chains and everything else like that? All right, it was coming from top down from the government and things like that, man. All right, who told you, to put sanctions on Russia and all these other nations, man, or on Russia basically? All right, and told your allies to stop trading with these nations, man. All right, who told you to stop buying gas and everything else like this from Russia, man? All right, it was America. All right, and now you're seeing the effect of all these things, man. All right, so the simple answer to all these things is, Ukraine, the pandemic. Well, who's orchestrating the way to respond to these things? All right, is coming from America. It says tens of thousands demonstrated against the rising cost of living, while with many linking the crisis to the West Russia's policy. The trade union organized protests numbering 70 to 80,000 demonstrators packed into the streets of Brussels on Monday, bringing the city to a standstill. In addition to expressing anger and rising cost of living in Belgium, many condemned the U.S.-led NATO alliance and involvement to the Ukrainian conflict. So here it says the U.S.-led NATO alliance, all right? Again, going into the whore that rideth upon the beast, all right? That's just another way of saying the U.S.-led NATO, all right? America or U.S. being the whore and NATO being the beast. All right. It says, where was we at? It says trade unions said that 80,000 people attended the protest, while police said that the turnout was closer to 70,000. Reuters reported. In addition to packing the streets, the protest led to mass cancellations of flights at Brussels airport, and as unions representing security personnel went on strike. Public transit routes around the city were also operating at drastically reduced capacity. Inflation hit 9% in Belgium in June, a 4-decade high, with spending power declining. Protesters demand salary hikes and tax cuts. And you have the same, temperature or the same reflection going on here in America, man. All right, with you have the rising cost of goods. All right, more and more taxes are being, taxes are going up higher. People's spending power is getting smaller and smaller. You have inflation, shrinkflation. All right, cost of living is going up. You have prices of things getting higher. All right, the quantity of things that you're buying at a higher price getting smaller. All right, the cost of living going up. All right, the cost of resources going up. All right, and your income isn't going up. More and more people are going without jobs. So all these things are hitting all at the same time. But we all know that according to the scripture, this is all being prepared for what? The hour of temptation, in which no man is going to be able to buy or sell save he that have that mark. All right, but ultimately, hey, this is what was bringing these people out to the roads, man. All right, it says, however, many link their dire economic straits to the EU sanctions regime on Russia, with the NATO alliance rush to arm the Ukraine. So let me read that slowly. So this is the real problem. All right. Now in there, most people that don't pay attention, they'll just see the word Ukraine. See, the problem goes to Ukraine. But it says, however, many link their dire economic straits to the EU sanctions. All right. Who told the EU and who told the EU to put these sanctions, all right, on Russia? All right. It was led by America. It says, to the EU sanctions regimes on Russia, with NATO alliance rush to arm Ukraine. Who told them to arm Ukraine? All right, it was America. All right, who's telling them not to arm Ukraine and not to start a conflict? Russia. So these things aren't Russia's fault, man. So the short answer to this is Russia's the problem. Ukraine is the problem. The conflict in Ukraine is the problem stemming from Russia, because Russia's just the boogeyman. No, that's not the question. But now over here, you're starting to see these people wake up to these things, man. All right, it says protesters demanded that their leaders spend money on salaries, not on weapons, and chant "Stop NATO." All right, so hey, this is these are the times that we're coming into right now, to where these nations are starting to wake up. Like the nations have drunk enough of wine. All right, therefore the nations are mad. All right, it says while similar protests against rising costs have taken place across Europe as of late, thousands of trade unionists marched in London on Saturday. Few have linked the soaring prices with actions of NATO and its members. 3 months ago, some protesters in Brussels waved Ukrainian flags and demanded that the EU cut itself off from Putin's oil. Weeks before that, the demonstrations outside the European Parliament buildings calling on sanctions for Russia. So in the beginning, they was brainwashed. Hey man, we need to sanction Russia. We need to stop Putin and this and that. And now they waking up after they done been fed this Babylonian juice. Now they starting to wake up to be like, damn, this ain't hurt Russia at all. This is only making Russia stronger. It's only hurting us, right? Brussels is home to headquarters of both the EU and NATO. It was also the city where U.S. President Joe Biden chose to announce a round of sanctions on Moscow in March before immediately telling reporters that sanctions never deter those targeted by them. All right. And so they already know what's going on. It's not going to really deter those that they put sanctions on. In fact, when you look at it, on paper or in reality, Russia's actually getting stronger with this. The Western powers are getting weaker with this. All right. You got the EU that's falling behind and resulting back to coal and things like that. And, falling from natural gas and liquid energy. All right. And things like that. The rising cost of living and trade and, food and things like that is hitting the Western countries and things like that. Whereas Russia, hey, their currency is getting stronger, man. They still moving right on along, man. Whilst these Western nations continue to arm Ukraine, they're the ones running out of arms. So if there was a major conflict that pops off, where are their weapons going to come from, man? All right, they gave all their weapons over to Ukraine, whereas Russia just over there just demolishing their weapon depots day after day after day after day, man. All right, so hey, man, Russia's really just not only just taking down the Ukraine, Russia's really taking down these other nations by digging into Ukraine, man. All right. It says, despite predicting in April that these measures will wipe out at least 15 years of Russia's economic gains, Russia's energy earnings have hit record levels since February, and the Russian ruble is currently at a 7-year high against the euro. Russian President Vladimir Putin has accused European countries of committing economic suicide via sanctions and predicted last week that the EU's direct losses from its sanctions policies could exceed $400 billion a year. So hey, man, these things are coming back upon you, you Western countries. All right, let me grab what was that precept I wanted to grab? Let me grab this real quick while I'm here. Jeremiah 51 and 7. Babylon have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. All right, hey, these nations have drunken of the wine of America, man. Following after her, like we were just reading in the article, how they was protesting. Hey, we need to sanction Russia. We need to how to say not arm. Well, they were saying arm Ukraine as well, but we need to support Ukraine. We need to sanction Russia. Now, them same people. All right, let me just get this real quick while I pop back up. These same people. So like, yeah, I want to read that, but wait a minute. So let me read up and then we'll jump back down. This is actually I should have read this in Second Ezra, but we'll grab it here though, when they speak about in Second Ezra 16. All right, but we'll read it here. Luke 21 and let me start at verse 9. It says, but when you should hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by. It says, then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, famines and pestilence, and fearful sights, and great signs shall they be from heaven. All right, so hey, this is what you have going on right now all over the globe. All right, let me jump down to verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity and seas and waves roaring. All right, so hey, you have distress upon nations or perplexity because the people saying, look, we can't just stand by. Again, if you don't understand what's going on, people will say, well, we can't stand by why, the boogeyman, Vladimir Putin and Russia just sit there and just start stealing Ukraine and stuff like that. But that's not really the case, man. When you really look into it, man, these things are all being stirred up because, no, we'll grab it real quick. I was going to grab a different precept in this, but we'll read it over here. All right. Habakkuk 2:5, it says, yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man and neither keepeth at home. All right. Who enlarges his desire as hell, and his death cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. So it's not because Russia's the big bad boogeyman. It's because America can't keep their ass at home. They're always in everybody else's nation, always in their in their backyard, stealing their resources. All right. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against him, a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, and how long to him that ladeth itself with thick clay. All right. So this is the reason that America, these nations. Well, let me read the next one. Verse 7, shall not all these rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booty unto them? Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood and for the violence of the land and of the city and all that dwell therein. So because America can't keep their ass at home, they always in other people's nations, stealing their resources and hijacking their countries, overthrowing governments, man. All right, these nations are going to ultimately rise up and say something against it. And right now you're starting to see, your own allies. Let's grab that real quick in Obadiah. All right, Obadiah 1:7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee, and they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is no understanding in him. So you're starting to see this right now, where some of these, American allies, all right, are making moves contrary to America, man. All right, you just had basically the situation with Turkey, where they just basically vetoed more nations from joining NATO because of basically America's backing, a known terrorist group to Turkey. All right, you have other nations that are like not going along with the plan as far as putting sanctions on Russia, because why? It's affecting them when it comes to their resources and things like that. They're not about to commit economic suicide just for America to so-called gain a little closer into a foothold against Russia, when they're like, look, man, hey, man, we don't have a problem with Russia. You got a problem with Russia. You need to go handle your own problem by yourself. Don't bring us into it, because, look, you're not being affected the way we're being affected. Yeah, America's being affected, but, these other nations are being affected more because, look, America got sanctions on Russia, whereas, if anybody buy oil or anything else like that from Russia, they're going to be hit with a penalty, all right, with harsh penalties and things like that. But guess who's buying oil from Russia, man? The U.S. is buying oil from Russia. But see, these other nations, they have to sit there and go cold and everything else like that. But look at America with the hypocrisy. So look, this is starting to, let's go ahead and grab that real quick. Revelation 17:16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, all right, and this is going into, basically, NATO and the EU, all right, because you got the whore, which is America, that rideth upon the beast, which is NATO and the EU, roughly paraphrasing, you have that conglomeration of these other Edomite nations, all right. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. All right. So ultimately, this is, like we read, shall they not suddenly rise up that shall bite thee and shall vex thee? All right. Ultimately, all these things are starting to come to pass. All right. Because look, they're starting to see that their resources are running dry. It's affecting their nations. All right. And a lot of these people are out in the streets. They're protesting. So you see more and more of the uproars of the people over these things now. All right. And it's all being orchestrated from on high. Let me grab this precept also on my mind. Isaiah 14 and let me read from verse 4. Isaiah 14:4. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how has the oppressor ceased and the golden city ceased? Yahweh have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. Hey, so ultimately, this is how you're seeing Esau go out, man, especially America, man, because first and foremost, you're gonna see their allies start turning away from them. Ultimately, they're gonna all shoot their arrows against America, man. All right. It says, he who smote the people in wrath for the continual stroke, he that ruleth the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. All right. So, hey, when these nations and Russia starts bucking up against America, and they're going to be out there alone, man. America's allies are not going to come to her aid, man. They're going to leave America out there to fall on their own, man. Because look at what America's doing, and this, these countries can look at it this way. Hey, in this war against Russia, basically, this proxy war against Russia, you actually destroying our nations as well too, and we supposed to be your homies and stuff like that. But how can we feel the blowback and the brunt of this here conflict, man? All right, so ultimately, this isn't looking out. This isn't looking good for America's allies, and now they're starting to count the cost of this here battle, man. All right, and you starting to see these people in these nations starting to have these uproars of the people, man. All right, but now look, they're starting to wake up from this Babylonian juice that they've been drinking and realize that they all have a common enemy, and it's Babylon the Great, man. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, the elect was edified with this here lesson. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone that taught us this truth and I rule well. And salutation and much love for Yakim pushing his truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.